Thank you. Thank you for that great introduction. And good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to be here to present to you. First, full disclosure, although this is a mobile developer conference, I had to switch my mobile off. What a shame, right? But I'm not here to talk about actually the mobile systems or the ecosystems. I think that's been covered very nicely in the last two presentations. But what I'm here to talk about is that word in the middle, which is about the developer, right? That's about yourselves. And how is it that you can actually use infrastructure like we have in the cloud infrastructure, Instacompute, to actually be more effective and impactful in creating your applications and hosting and being able to deliver on those applications. I think in the first presentation this morning, cloud did feature in one of the slides, right? There was also the other slide which talked about the investment, right? And you did notice that the applications was right there at the bottom with the lowest amount of investment. So how is it that we could actually develop applications with minimal investment in infrastructure? Let me show you how, using cloud. So first, is this real? So there's this whole talk about, cloud. Is it something that's happening? Is it not? It is real. If you look at the numbers that's been predicted by Gartner and the likes of Gartner, it's about $121 billion market in the next 4 years. It is real. It is happening right now, right? Why is it happening? Essentially, what people are noticing is that moving forward, it's easier to jumpstart the business. It's easier to be more innovative without having to have the baggage of capital investments in large infrastructure. So if you have an idea, you need to get that idea productionized. You need infrastructure. You can get it on the cloud right now, right? So there's no need to, decide on equipment, place an order, wait for it to be delivered, find a space, install it, have the right people to run that application, run that, infrastructure for you. All that is not required anymore. It also helps to keep your technology current, right? So that's the technology exhaustion piece. So when you're using a platform, it's there for you, managed by the service provider, such as us, like Tata Communications and others who provide this service, and they keep it current for you and make sure that you are always having the right infrastructure at the right time. Now, what is it that you can do with this, right? So as developers, clearly when you need infrastructure, you need to develop your application. You can use the cloud, the infrastructure as a service that we have as Instacompute. You can stage your applications, you can test your applications, you can debug your applications, and then you can go into production and make it live, right? And the best part of it is you only pay for what you use. So this is the pay-per-use philosophy, right? You do not have to pay for infrastructure that you are not using at any point in time, right? So it makes it more like a utility model like you have with power, right? You just, whatever you use and consume, that's all you pay for. You don't pay for, the rest of the generators, etc. It also allows you to monitor the usage, right? From most of the cloud providers will give you systems which will allow you to monitor how you're using that in terms of, the capabilities as well as in terms of capacity. Now, it is something that's already being used right now by some of the leading games and developers globally. If you look at some of the statistics here on this slide, there are significant numbers of active users, right? 35 million, in fact, that's being now supported on cloud infrastructure by folks like Sinha and Farmville, the Farmville application from Sinha. Now, the applications which are allowing this, the infrastructure, clauses in the contracts which would allow, would make it very difficult to scale up, scale down, and basically you end up spending much more than what you thought you would originally. So it has to be a transparent interaction, right? Make sure that there is no costly add-ons, and then, of course, to make sure that the on-ramp, which is the connectivity, the connect to the data center, is also available and is efficient. Otherwise, the cloud infrastructure is only as good as the connectivity to the infrastructure, right? So what one needs to look at when you're choosing a cloud partner is to make sure that they do have the requisite capacity to be able to scale up and scale down for your requirements, that they are using the reputed equipment to build the cloud infrastructure, that there is capability to manage performance, right, as well as security, and also to be able to monitor the usage. So these are the multiple areas that one needs to look at when choosing a partner in this area. And then pretty much what is going to happen is once you make this choice, right, you will see that there are certain aspects such as security, the service level agreements, the reliability, and so on and so forth, that one needs to look at very clearly, and you will then find these in your contract and make sure that all of these are as up to the mark. Now let me talk a little bit about the service from Tata Communications, which is InstaCompute. And before I go any further into the service, I must say that we have this right outside upstairs in our booth for you to experience. Please go and check it out during the breaks, during the time that you have in between sessions. You can sign up for a free trial account where you would actually be able to go and use the entire system as you like for a certain period of time. And should you like to continue, you could then formalize that into a formal purchase order contract. So essentially what we have built into this, and you'll see if you come for the demo upstairs in the booth, is that it's very easy to turn this service on, right? All it takes is to go to ios.tatacommunications.com, instacompute.com as we're renaming the site, go over there, sign up, start with the service, and then swipe your credit card, put in your credit card details, or go for a formal purchase order if you require a formal purchase order to then get the service activated. It is flexible, it's easy, it's cost effective, it allows you to scale up, scale down. We have 24-hour service inbuilt in the price. There is no extra cost, no hidden cost, totally transparent. It also allows you, which is very important from a developer perspective, to monitor the usage by projects. So if you have multiple projects that you're running, you actually have the capability built into the system to go and monitor the various projects and the costs, as well as from infrastructure. We offer you the most leading infrastructure from reputed vendors available today. Our infrastructure is currently operated on Dell. So, like I was mentioning, there are no hidden costs, whether it's a load balancer, public IP address, and so on and so forth, everything mentioned over there, including 24/7 service, all included. So I've talked about most of these, but let me just give another aspect to this. Is Tata Communications, as a very large global telco provider, when we are hosting our InstaCompute services, it is hosted in our data centers on our telco backbone, right? So from that perspective of having the on-ramp, you have the best possible capabilities in terms of the network, as well as I did talk about the cloud infrastructure. So the blended ability to have the cloud infrastructure on our global network platform gives you a best-in-class combination that is very difficult to beat in the market. We also have multiple security features which are built in to make sure that the system as well as the infrastructure is as secure as possible. DDoS attacks, etc., are a reality today. It's happening. We have our security services, which we offer separately as well, that is bundled into the InstaCompute service to make sure that you have a very secure computing environment. If you could play the video, please. I think the volume is not there.
Game content, such as serious games. One of the challenges the industry has in developing games for global audiences is being able to calculate and forecast how quickly the community is going to grow. So an example of this is that on the first day you might have 100, 200,000 registered users, and then the next day you could have 1 million registered users. How do you scale and build your infrastructure on demand and when it's required? By going into InstaCompute, we actually found that we're able to be agile and reactive to the way that our community grew and the needs of our company without having to go into locked-in fixed investments. Very important for us is being able to really go out to the audience without having to restructure a new business, a new pricing schedule. Knowing everything up front gives us great security and confidence to be able to go to market with assurance that we're going to be delivering to the schools, to the public, with high quality and great quality service. So one of the things we were concerned about by moving into a kind of utility-based service was that how we're going to deal with personalized experience. Is rather than thinking that we had to do it all on our own, that we had to discover everything ourselves, we actually had a group of people giving us advice, helping us understand the technical challenges, the business challenges. The interesting thing is all about partnership. And when working with Tata Communications, we found that it was a very smart choice to look at not just providing a simple service, something which was available, a day-to-day utility, but also having someone that we could work with, design these systems, understand the industry challenges. And the interesting thing is, when we talked to Tata, they understood in our language what our industry challenges were, making a choice between a product and a different provider. It's actually looking at making decisions around long-term partnerships, looking at how your business is going to grow over the long term, and how a company like Tata Communications can help you with that growth.
Nothing says it better than a customer in their own words, right? So Magma Studios is a gaming development company based out of Singapore, and so I'm not going to try and recap that in the interest of time, but essentially that sort of sums up what we were saying in terms of the advantages of using cloud as infrastructure for developing applications for the mobile world and also beyond. We have several very large customers in India and in Asia Pacific. Our capabilities we have rolled out right now in India as well as in our data center in Singapore. So we have Asia Pacific footprint. What is the future? Just a snapshot in terms of where we see this whole infrastructure and the cloud moving to in the future, and I thought that's a nice place to leave you with is, today we are in public cloud. We see, of course, the private cloud or the the cloud which is more single tenancy coming up as a big choice for large enterprises moving forward. Hybrid, where you actually have the capability of both a private and a public cloud. And then finally, a community cloud. And the community cloud is where I would actually suggest that this audience focus on, because that is where it's the capability of different cloud systems to be able to interact with each other dynamically, right? And to be able to actually build an overall ecosystem. And the ecosystem was something that we heard in the past presentations as being important and the key driver in this area, right? So the ability to build ecosystems on cloud would be then enabled by the community cloud system. So with that, let me end my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a great next 2 days. Please do visit the Tata Communications stalls and experience InstaCompute for yourselves. Thank you.